Good morning. My name is Nicole Sasuchum, and this is the SUNY Old Westbury Facility Experience. I had the great pleasure of shadowing Mrs. Brittany Vitalia, the Assistant Director of Athletics for Athletics Facilities and the Senior Woman Administrator. Her qualifications include receiving her master's and bachelor's degree from SUNY Cortland in sports management. While at SUNY Cortland, she was the stadium assistant from 2010 to 2012 and the stadium complex intern in 2010. She moved forward by being the athletic operation and special events intern with LIU Post, and then she was able to land her position at SUNY Old Westbury as athletics facility manager in 2013. Some of her duties included overseeing game day management, facility management, field preparation, student staff management, and Student Athlete Advisory Committee, known as SAC, as their advisor. She was promoted to her current position now as Assistant Director of Athletics and founded the Cubs to Panthers Student Athlete Development Program, as well as taking on responsibilities of the monthly practice schedules and the athletic team transportation. Her contact information is below. Prior to seeing what Mrs. Vitalia does, I was able to get a tour of the facility, which included the Clark Athletic Center, the Jackie Robinson Athletic Complex, as well as Panther Park. Starting with the Clark Athletic Center is actually the heart of SUNY Old Westbury's campus. Is home to the gymnasium, the swimming pool, the athletic training center, and the athletic department offices, as well as the fitness center and the weight room. Right now, they're in transition of getting the equipment in the weight room and the fitness center branded with the OW logo. And these are all the machines that are actually in the facility. The Clark Athletic Center Gymnasium is home to the men's and women's basketball team, as well as the women's volleyball team, where the fans are able to enjoy great competition at the Division III level. The seating was built for 2,500, and there have been televised games, as noted here on the website. The swimming pool is home for the men's and women's swimming team, where the swim meets are held there, and Mrs. Vitalia is in charge of the upkeep of the swimming pool. The tennis courts is actually outside of the facility near the parking lot, which is available for recreational use. Jackie Robinson Athletic Complex is home for the baseball and softball fields. The baseball field actually has lights, and the softball field doesn't. Because of gender equity, Mrs. Vitalia was able to let me know that it's in the works of getting lights for the softball field. And she's also in charge of the upkeep for both fields. And Panther Park is home to the men's and women's soccer team, as well as the women's lacrosse team. And she's also in charge of the upkeep of that. Mrs. Vitalia was able to show me the office portion of her job duties, which includes the schedule and the transportation. She was able to tell me about the Quare software, the Arbiter One software, as well as her interactions with the rental department. Starting off with the Quare software, this is where she's able to schedule the facilities to make sure there's no time conflicts and everybody has their shared time in the facilities that she's in charge of, as well as putting in work orders for the maintenance and the cleaning, the janitorial cleaning. So this is on their website, the Quare website. This is how the actual software looks, and this is just events. So in this case, for Mrs. Vitalia, this will show right now the men's and women's basketball, how the Clark Athletics Gymnasium was going to be used, who has it, or if there's a time conflict, it'll show up in red to make sure that she's able to address it. She's also, as well as in the Clark Athletic Center, is the gym, the pool. She wants to make sure that that's open for men's and women's swimming to be able to utilize it, or if it's open swim for the community to use as well. And this will be the same for the Panther Park field as well, to make sure that men's and women's soccer has their time as well as lacrosse has their time. But since there's no time conflict with scheduling, because soccer is in the fall and lacrosse is in the spring, there's not too much conflict. Most of the conflicts happens in the Clark Athletic Gymnasium. So this is how she'll be able to schedule some events. This is how it will look. And where everything is. She also made a mention that this isn't just for the athletic department, it's also for the entire school. So any other department that would like to schedule events, because would like to schedule events, will be able to see what's open and what's not open, what's available for use. And this is the PDF that's being able to be distributed to the appropriate parties. As I said before, Quare is also used for scheduling work orders. And this is just a brief overview of what she uses to schedule work orders for the maintenance and janitorial crew. I actually have a picture of how it looks. So she would create the new work order and be able to fill out what type, the status, the what needs to be done, where it needs to be done, and they'll assign who she wants to assign it to. Actually, she's not the one that's assigning it. She's requesting it to be done, and they will assign it to whoever needs to get the work done. So this is how it will look. Arbiter 1 is where the referees are being paid for their games. She was also, the time that I spent with her, she was able to work on trying to get the women's volleyball referees paid. So she uses Arbiter 1, where it's able to schedule the referees. And it's not just to volleyball. She does it for basketball. She does it for softball, baseball. She does it for soccer and lacrosse. And it's really easy for her to just be able to get the refs assigned to the games, and after they've completed everything, then she's able to just send out the payment and for them to receive their funding for their hard earned 2 hours that they were at the game. So this is basically how the website looks. And she doesn't use the mobile site. She uses the computer to do everything. And this is how basically it will look. Her interaction with the rental department is a huge one. She thrives off of having good relationships with them, because this is the way that things get done for her for the facility that she's covering, in terms of maintenance and janitorial, to making sure that everything is safe and secure, as well as transportation. She coordinates with the coaches and makes sure that their team is able to travel to their road contests. So she prides herself off of having great relationships with them. Moving forward with the shadowing, I inquired about crisis and risk management during the fall, winter, and spring seasons, as well as how she navigates the locker room and cleanliness. So during the fall, there's men's and women's soccer and women's volleyball. Some of the crises include how the fields is set up, the scoreboard, and the soccer goalpost. So she's had experience with animals coming onto the field and tearing up the field. She's also had experience with the soccer goalpost, where there was actually a fox in one of the nets, and with the scoreboard with rats chewing on the wire that would turn the scoreboard off. With the winter sports, which is men's and women's basketball, and a little bit of volleyball because they also use a gymnasium. There was actually a leak in the gym, and one of the ways she navigated that was, of course, reaching out to maintenance in order to check where the source of the leak was, which come to find out it was actually because it snowed. The water was seeping through of the roof. But in that terms, there was a game that was actually supposed to take place on that day. They found the leak, but they were able to coordinate with Farmingdale State, a neighboring college, to actually have the game take place there. The most challenging for her is the spring sports, which is baseball, softball, and not too much with lacrosse, but mostly baseball and softball. Just because the upkeep of the field is a little different, and they're playing during the months where there's snow and rain and cold weather, that really makes everything challenging. So, and she's also had experience where animals want to tear up the field as well. She doesn't like canceling games, so she'll work very hard to make sure that the field is playable. But she never goes alone without making this kind of decision. That was one of the questions that I asked her. She coordinates with the sports information director because he's also in charge of making sure that the game is statted well. Working with the athletic training team because they also need to make sure that they're keeping the players safe on the field. And most importantly, the coach. The coach knows the sport very well and knows if the field is playable or not. Of course, most coaches want to get the games in, but they also have to keep in mind that they want to keep their players safe. And she also takes into account that there are players' parents that do want to go to the games, and making that commute is also challenging if they live far, and they want to be able to watch their child play. So she keeps that in mind. One of the interesting things that also came up in conversation was the locker rooms and the cleanliness of the locker rooms. She uses the janitorial staff, and it's not just one towards athletics, it's actually for the whole school. So it's actually challenging in that regard. When it comes to the locker room and making sure that the men's and women's are separate, not terms of SUNY Old Westbury home team, but in terms of the visiting teams and where to place them. There's certain rooms in the complex in the Clark Athletic Center where she's able to separate them. But the challenge is with the referees. When there's, let's use basketball as an example, when there's two males and one female ref, and where to place her, so that they're separate in the changing, but they also need to be together to discuss how the game is being refereed. So she has challenges with that. She also mentioned that Title IX did come up in our conversation, besides just the softball lights being put in, also addressing LGBTQ matters, and the transgender matter, and making sure that if there is a transgender student athlete, where they're able to be accounted for appropriately and safely.